February's gone, but winter isn't. I'm Charlie Sykes, and Sunday Insight starts right now. Good morning and welcome to Sunday Insight. In the week that was, well, we start with our rogues gallery of political types behaving badly. It turned out that State Representative Christine Sinicki has arrest warrants out for her in St. Francis. Now, Sinicki has a long list of financial and legal woes. This is just the latest. And a prominent lawyer and contributor to Democratic candidates, attorney Daniel Rotier, was arrested for hitting his wife with a cane. Gubernatorial candidate Mary Burke says she intends to give away Rotier's $4,500 contribution to her campaign. Former Democrat spokesman Graham Zelensky posted a tweet that suggested that Sheriff David Clark be shot. Zelensky has been paid $10,000 by the campaign of County Executive Chris Abele, who last week sought to downplay his links to his consultant. Now, on a brighter note, Cactus League Baseball began in Arizona. Not so bright note, the Russians rattling their sabers in the Ukraine. And actor, writer, director Harold Ramis, who gave us Ghostbusters and Stripes, passed away at the age of 69. But we start with the continuing fallout from the John Doe investigation of Scott Walker's former county staff. That investigation has been closed since last year with no charges against Walker, but the media continues to pour through tens of thousands of emails. A national group funded by billionaire George Soros has created a website to pound Walker. Meanwhile, more fallout as the top lawyer at the Department of Transportation loses his job for a lewd email that he wrote back in 1998. The email turned up in the email document dump. What's unclear is whether the attacks are actually drawing political blood. Now, joining me on our panel this morning, the Milwaukee Community Journal's Michael Holt, former State Representative Michelle Litjens, political strategist Lynn DeBruin, and political consultant Mary Jo Baas. Okay, so Mary Jo, is Walker being hurt, and if so, how badly?
I think he's being hurt for the moment, but it's not going to last. Wisconsin is short attention span theater, and he's going to move on.
What about on the national level? Because obviously one of the reasons he's getting this national attack is because of the 2016 buzz.
The national media is looking at it and realizing there's nothing there. It's been investigated. The DA found nothing. I think the only reason we're seeing it in the local media is because they have so much time and money invested in this. Okay, Lynn DeBruin.
Well, the only part I agree with what Mary Jo said is how long this is going to be damaged. I think he is getting damaged, especially with some independents, which is an important group. I've talked to some of my independent friends, and this is the first time I've ever heard them actually question Scott Walker's integrity. So if that stays, then that could hurt him. But on the national media level, I think it was a non-story until Walker didn't answer Chris Wallace's questions last Sunday. And then the national media started sniffing a little blood. I don't think it's as bad as Chris Christie, but it's not good.
Okay, Michelle Litjens.
I don't see long-term political legs on this. I think the left has been salivating over this for so long, which was why we saw the Progressive magazine jump on the word caging. They wrote an article inappropriately accusing the Walker campaign of subduing minority votes when it had nothing to do with that at all. They had to retract their statement, but in the meantime, there were so many lefty bloggers out there that just jumped on it, and they're making fools of themselves because they're not finding anything.
Michael Holt, your sense?
Well, you know, Mary Jo also said something about the attention span of Wisconsin voters, etc. But they're also very, as I've seen over the years, very, very gullible. So I think this is having an impact because they're confused by, you know, because some of the allegations are really out there, you know, and I think some people buying into it.
Well, so some of the allegations, like the one that Michelle was mentioning, the Progressive magazine goes with Walker aides caught caging minority voters, and they went this gigantic story, except somebody pointed out to them, actually Right Wisconsin pointed out to them, caging is just the process of processing these checks. Well, yeah, you know, I do think that, you know, there's two things. Number one, there is a short attention span for voters. The other thing, though, is that you have to have an underlying scandal here, and that's part of the problem. So Mary Burke this week comes out and says she's disappointed, and she wants to raise the ethical bar for her staff. Here's the problem for Mary Burke. Her senior advisor is named Tanya Bjork, who was criminally charged and convicted in 2005 for, guess what? Campaigning on state time in the state capitol. Her chief grassroots organizer is a woman named Paul Zellner, who is ticketed for harassing elderly people at a private fundraiser. So part of the problem is for Democrats to make hay, you know, they've got a little bit of baggage. Not to mention, I was doing an interview with a national reporter who was saying, well, do you think that there was politics going on in the county exec's office? I said, well, do you think there's politics that goes on in the Obama White House? I mean, there's a little bit of this, I'm shocked to shocked, this is, you know, comes out. So part of it is, there's no smoking gun. There's no bridge that was shut down. You know, there's no stained dress. It's what? Emails. Now, let's talk about this, though. Did Walker mishandle that interview with Chris Wallace a week ago on Fox News?
I think it was uncomfortable, but I don't see that he really had many options. Once he opens himself up, there's no story there. They're creating the story just by virtue of the emails being out there.
But he was saying that the emails are old news, which I think is true. But then they fired John Schulze, who's the top attorney for the Department of Transportation. Was that an overreaction?
It's an old email that was resent.
Okay, he wrote it in 1998. He resent it in 2010 to private email accounts. He gets fired for it. Your reaction?
I think the story would have gone away. I think the governor. I don't think the governor should have fired.
Okay, what did you think?
Well, I think that the lingering question here is why, if Walker didn't know about the email system, which that knowledge is not illegal. So they must be looking at that answer as some sort of political major problem for them. But if Walker didn't know about it, why wouldn't he say he didn't know about it? That's the point. It's not, I don't hear a lot of people saying, oh, I think he was massively involved in campaign election fraud. He's never been charged with anything like that. Well, but they're questioning his judgment over some of the quality of some of the people that he hired. And then on that one question, they're wondering why he isn't answering it.
Okay, so what has your glass half full and what has your glass half empty this week? We'll start with you, Michael Holt.
Well, my glass is half full because the NFL is proposing to penalize players who use the N-word during games. My glass is half empty because the NFL is proposing to penalize players who use the N-word during games. I'll clarify that contradiction later in the show.
I can't wait. Michelle Litjens.
My glass is half empty because some Wisconsin Democrats are proposing more inefficient green energy mandates. We don't need more mandates. Consumers care about protecting the environment today. We consume more energy today, but emit less pollution than we did 20 years ago. That makes my glass half full of clean water.
Linda Bruin.
Well, my glass is half empty because Arizona passed legislation allowing businesses to deny service to gay patrons. But my glass is half full because the negative reaction of big business, including the NFL, helped convince Governor Brewer to step into this century and veto the legislation.
Mary Jo Baas.
My glass is half full because MPS records, I'm sorry, my glass is half empty because records MPS obtained this week shine new light on just how scandalous and possibly even illegal the district's deal to sell the vacant Malkin MX school was. Unfortunately, unless the legislature passes the school facilities legislation currently before them, MPS is going to keep getting away with scams like this.
Well, my glass is half full because the EPA now says that Racine, Milwaukee, and Waukesha counties now meet federal air quality standards. It's half empty because we've met those standards for years, and it's just now the bureaucracy is getting around to changing our status. Next on Sunday Insight, the holy mess that is our roads. What, if anything, can we do about all those potholes? Just drive anywhere around Milwaukee, or should we say Pothole City. Basically, it's a mess. The brutal winter has been especially brutal on the area's roadways, which can resemble a cross between a washboard and a minefield. So what can be done? Well, last week, several ideas were floated. One calls for diverting some of the money set aside for the downtown trolley to fix the streets. The other, a proposal by County Supervisor Russell Stamper to use House of Correction inmates to fill the potholes. So, Michael Holt, do you like the idea of bringing back the chain gangs to work on the roads?
Well, this wouldn't be a chain gang. They had a similar program to clean up the expressways, to clean up all the trash, and it was working wonderfully. And then they discontinued. I don't even know why. But the reality is the city's going to end up paying millions and millions of dollars as they sit and wait for these roads to mysteriously fix themselves because of all the claims against them.
So you like the idea of having House of Correction inmates do this work? Michelle Litjens.
The mayor has a responsibility to the citizens to say, we are going to be able to allocate money where it needs to go, not to a shiny new trolley. He needs to decide that it's a priority to fix the roads in the city of Milwaukee, and he needs to decide to do that soon.
Linda Bruin.
Well, I think there's some $43 million in surplus state transportation funds. And I think that it's not just the city of Milwaukee that's got this problem. There were multiple mayors at that press conference. And I think that the state should forward some additional funds to local governments across the state to deal with this.
Wait, what is that I hear? It's the great sucking sound of Milwaukee wanting other people's money.
But it's not the only one.
It's that gigantic
This is a 50% increase.
Do Milwaukee politicians wake up in the middle of the night and go, how can I get more money from somebody else to fix the problems that I should have been able to fix?
the state, that's part of the state responsibility for being responsible for transportation across the state. And these potholes are ridiculous. And I see nothing wrong with cities asking the state to chip in.
Let's just
the state,
assume,
if they say no, then the local taxpayer will have to pay for it.
Let's assume that you're not able to suck more money out of the rest of the state's pockets.
Surplus money, not.
No, wait a minute. There wasn't a surplus a few weeks ago.
Surplus. It becomes, you know, gimme. But what about the question I actually asked you, which was about the use of the House of Corrections inmates?
You know, I'm not real thrilled with that. I actually like what the city of Milwaukee already does, which is that once individuals have been released from jail and are rebuilding their lives and trying to get a job, they hire them.
Okay, since I beat up on her.
Well, I would like to tell Lynn that whether you're looking at local taxpayers paying for it or state taxpayers paying for it, it's still me. And I've got higher than ever, you know, gas bills and other things. You got to prioritize. There's no pot of money that's magically going to come in to fix these things. It's the fault of Mother Nature, no particular politician. But we have to look at everything. And
but I really also like the idea from Deanna Alexander and Alderman Bob Donovan to take that money that is set aside for the downtown trolley and say, okay, you know, let's have a shiny new trolley, you know, when we don't have other priorities. And right now, I'm guessing that if you ask people who drive around the city of Milwaukee, what would you rather spend money on? Would you rather spend money on fixing what we actually use as opposed to this 2-mile trolley that nobody needs? I think that overwhelmingly people would say, yeah, the trolley can wait. Now, I understand.
Can they use that money?
Well,
that's right.
Yeah, all you need to do, though, is have Congress would have to act.
This
right?
Congress?
Well, some Congress would have to act. Well, and you know, to reallocate it. But it's also an interesting debate about priorities, and it's fascinating, you know, that the same people who are always saying that there's somebody else's money out there that we can have aren't willing to say yes, but how about we have some actual needs here as opposed to the mayor's desire for something shiny and new to put under his tree. Now, you may not want to hear it, but we want to tell you anyway. Let's hand out some unsolicited advice. Michael Holt, you're first.
Mine is to the Milwaukee Common Council. Please give immediate consideration to Russell Snapper's proposal to use jail inmates to fix the city's 1,000,001 potholes. Either that or give tax breaks to the thousands of people with damaged cars.
Michelle Litjens.
To parents, we need to talk to our daughters about self-respect in their actions and what they wear, and explain to our children that they shouldn't grind or disrespect themselves at school dances. It is our responsibility as parents to protect our children from themselves, so let's not forget it.
Linda Bruin.
Well, my advice is to the 8 to 10 other states currently considering bills similar to Arizona's anti-gay legislation. Everyone should be welcome to sit at the same lunch counter. Non-discrimination is an American value that is both morally right and good for business.
Mary Jo Baas.
spring training has begun, and my unsolicited advice is for Ryan Braun, who blasted his first at-bat. Keep hitting homers, and all is forgiven.
Well, my unsolicited advice is to Governor Scott Walker. Look, Governor, you cannot fire everybody who wrote an inappropriate email back in 1998. That was an overreaction. It was off message, since you say the other emails are old news, and you have set a nasty precedent for the future. Next on Sunday Insight, the NFL wants to kick the N-word off the field. What's that all about? Well, because we just don't have enough penalties in football, the NFL is considering a 15-yard penalty for the use of the N-word. Now, a second offense would mean ejection from the game. So is that a good idea? And if the NFL is going to start banning words, what words will be next? The F word, the S word, the P word?
What about the R word? The Redskins is obviously a fine.
It's going to be awkward, yeah.
Why are we always working to emasculate our men? And now our poor football players, for goodness sakes, they can't even say what they want to say in the locker rooms. We want to take away
well,
their
so you're saying the real men call each other the N-word?
Not at all.
What?
Not at all.
What?
Why do we have to just work so hard to sissify our men?
Okay,
right?
what is it? Sissify?
You know what? Because this is not going to affect white football players. This is going to affect black football players using the N-word against other black football
race
players.
card. The bottom line here is that these are highly paid professional athletes who are supposed to be role models. And if they don't have the maturity to monitor their own use of discriminatory language, then I think the NFL should step in. My only issue is a 15-yard penalty. Why don't they do what they do in Europe, which is kick the guy out of the game for 10 games?
But is that the only word? Is that the only word? What about slurs against Hispanics, against Jews, against homosexuals, against, I mean, are you going to have a long list of 12 words or what?
I actually think they're
Okay, Michael, I want to know what you think.
If you're going to do one, I think you should do all of them.
You almost have to, yeah.
But I sit back and look at the league, and I say, all of these white guys who run all of these different teams, and they won't even deal with the Washington Redskins situation, and that's an offensive term.
Well, one of the reasons why they're talking about doing this, I think, is to provide them cover for that, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And absolutely. And Michelle is right. 95% of the times it would be used in the game is going to be black people talking to other black people. I hate the word. I detest the word. But it's become part of our culture. So what if they're sitting there talking about the lyrics of a song? You going to throw them out there? I mean, you have to take this to its natural conclusion, and it's not going to bode well. You have to include everybody else in there. You have to have something. You can't say homosexual, can't say the F word, can't say any of it. So let's purify the game to the point where they could just play ping pong or something.
Right.
Well,
why
at some point,
why
these
do you
guys
have to say discriminatory remarks in order to play a manly football game?
No, see what I'm
I
saying,
think
in the
that's
case
what's
of- in the case of
ridiculous
some of the-
here.
some of the black
they don't
players-
have to do that. Nobody has to do
some
it.
of the
Black,
players,
white, Hispanic,
they
whatever.
look at the NIGGRA as an affectionate term. So, I mean, what are you going to do? I wish none of them would say it, because I grew up hearing the word and I heard it in a totally different connotation. When I marched to the South Side and saw little kids holding up signs saying for the Indians to go back to Africa.
Okay, this is an of course
Yeah,
issue. Of
yeah.
course, they should get rid of it. But there is, Lynn, a reason why they do it. They're it's 3/4 physical, 1/4 mental, and they're trying to get under another person's skin to get at them. And that's not the worst thing. If they say that, they're going to say something about somebody's mother or somebody's wife. They're just
Which they
trying
do.
to get them, which they do, and they do it in a horrible way, and they'll just do it about something else.
So is Major League Baseball going to ban the term belly itcher? Because, I mean, where are we going to go on all this? See, I think that, Lynn, another career, you know, that you could possibly have is you could be the speech police for the NFL, and you could be like the school mom who
would
sits
love
on the
that.
side and
I
say,
would- I'd
no,
have a great
you
time."
do not need to call that person that name. Look, I think it is a
I could
good
be the
thing
NFL
for
nanny.
organizations to do everything possible to get rid of the N-word. The problem is that it is a slippery slope, because every single group is going to be in, and they're going to say, and what I predict is the football players, who are not all dumb guys, will come up with creative, completely new words
So what if
to
you say,
get in.
what if you actually say the N-word?
Yeah.
I mean,
I
you feel
want
comfortable saying
to
that,
know
right?
whether there's going to be instant replay. We'll have the slow motion of the did he actually say it? Okay, is what they said this week the same thing as what you heard? Let's go around the table. Michael Holt.
The deputy director of the ATF admitted during a congressional hearing Thursday that he learned of many of the agency's botched sting operations in Milwaukee from the Journal Sentinel. What I heard is that we're either inept, corrupt, or both.
Michelle.
Well, we heard Jay Carney tell a liberal reporter this week the job of the executive branch is to carry out the laws that Congress passes. But didn't we hear Obama say that he had a pen and a phone, and if Congress doesn't do what he wants, he's going to do it himself? So I guess I heard Jay Carney say the executive branch only has to carry out the laws Congress passes when Obama agrees with the laws.
Linda Bruin.
Well, last week when Governor Scott Walker kept refusing to say whether he knew about the secret the secret county email system, common sense tells us that the governor was really saying that he did know about it. Because if he had no knowledge of it, he would have said so.
Mary Jo Baas.
Venezuelan President Maduro declared a 4-day memorial holiday this week leading up to Carnival. What I heard was maybe a few days at the beach will make the students forget about the killings, economic crisis, and crime. I think not.
Well, this week, Democratic candidate Mary Burke said, I'm just disappointed that our governor set such a low bar for campaign ethics. What I heard was a candidate whose senior advisor was convicted of, wait for it, campaigning and raising campaign cash on state time, and whose top grassroots organizer was ticketed by cops for harassing elderly citizens at a fundraiser. Now, I think there's a word for this. Yeah, hypocrisy. Next on Sunday Inside, our panel picks the winners and losers of the week. First, here's your morning news update. It's time for our panel to pick the winners and losers of the week. Michael Holt, you're first.
Black male teenagers are the winners with the introduction of the president's My Brother's Keeper initiative. The project will directly address the barriers and attitudes that result in 50% high school dropout rates, massive unemployment, and dysfunctional black families. The losers, Arizona Republican lawmakers are the losers with the proposal to allow merchants to discriminate against gays. The legislation, which was vetoed by Republican Governor Jan Brewer, was both callous and morally offensive.
Michelle Litjens.
My loser is Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel, who would like to reduce our military to its smallest size since before World War II. No one would argue with making our military more efficient, but we know the best defense is a strong military standing ready to defend liberty and freedom at all times. My winners are all of the budding technology entrepreneurs out there who have about 55 employees and about $10 million in revenue last year. Who knows, maybe Facebook will buy you too for $19 billion.
Linda Bruin.
Last fall, 237 members of Congress vowed not to accept their salaries during the government shutdown. We now know that only 109 members kept their vows. This means that 80% of Congress ultimately kept their entire salary, and they are my losers. My winners are the Ukrainian people who wouldn't give up until they ended the corrupt and violent regime of President Viktor Yanukovych and won their revolution.
Mary Jo Baas.
My loser is State Representative Christine Snicki, driving with a suspended license, claiming per diem for it, and using her state letterhead to enter her not guilty plea may not make her the most corrupt politician in Wisconsin, but it certainly puts her on the podium for the stupidest. For dealing with inner city crime in Milwaukee, for taking it where it is, and scouring the country for solutions and dealing with it as one of his top priorities, Mayor Tom Barrett is my winner of the week.
My winner, baseball fans. Baseball's back. Ryan Braun is hitting home runs. Bob Uecker is calling games. It's about time. Loser, Brett Bielema. A year after bolting from UW for greener pastures, Bielema has fallen from coaching grace, both for his losing record at Arkansas and for his tasteless comments about a dead football player. Bielema probably wishes he never left Wisconsin. Too bad, Brett. Thanks for joining us. Join me for my radio show on News Radio 620 WTMJ. Have a great week.